afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Peter Kent, the Member of Parliament from Thornhill, and I'm with Senator Leo Housakis, and we are about to be joined by the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, the leader of Her Majesty's Loyal Opposition in the House of Commons, the Honourable Andrew Scheer, and members, the candidates standing in the October election for the Conservative Party of Canada from across the GTA. So please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Andrew Scheer. Good to see you, boss.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Come on in around the back. Our GTA candidates.
All right, good candidates. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi. It's a great pleasure to be with you all today. So I have a few opening remarks about some of the issues that have been front and center in the House of Commons in the last few days, and I'm happy to take questions on any number of topics that you'd like to bring up. So clearly, over the past few weeks, Canadians have been gripped with the current crisis facing the Liberal government. We now know, after very detailed, comprehensive testimony from the former Attorney General, Ms. Jody Wilson-Raybould, that for a period of 4 months at least, there was a coordinated, unwanted, and sustained campaign to politically interfere with a criminal court proceeding. We now know that what Justin Trudeau told Canadians simply wasn't true. You'll recall that when these allegations were first raised, his initial reaction was to deny them all, that there's no basis, no grounds for the allegations themselves. He also denied ever having put pressure on the former Attorney General at all. We now know that that was not true. He also said that the former Attorney General, Jody Wilson-Raybould, never brought her concerns directly to him, and that she should have done that. Well, we now know that she did. She asked the officials in the Prime Minister's office to stop, and they did not stop. This strikes at the very core of the integrity of our justice system. We, as Canadians, must fight very forcefully to protect the independence of our judicial system. We are not the type of country where powerful politicians can pick up the phone and interfere in court proceedings. And that is precisely what Justin Trudeau is being accused of doing. We do not live in a country where there is one set of rules for the rich and powerful and one set of rules for the rest of us. But we can't take that for granted. And we must ensure that Justin Trudeau is held accountable for his attempts to use our justice system to reward his well-connected friends and to punish his enemies. That is not the Canada that I want to live in, and I know that that is not the Canada that Canadians want to live in either. So we're going to continue to press for answers on this case. There are so many details emerging here that it's sometimes difficult to focus on just a few of them, but I'd like to point out a couple of points that very much need reminding or need to be highlighted. First and foremost, the justification for Justin Trudeau in his actions is completely false. He claims that he was trying to protect jobs, but we now know that he was only interested in one job, his own. He told Ms. Wilson-Raybould that she had to do what he wanted her to do because there was an election coming up, because it might affect his own seat. We know that there are other tools that the government was looking for to protect jobs in this industry, and we now know that their motivations were completely political. We also know that there is still more information to come. Jody Wilson-Raybould has not had all of her privileges waived when it comes to testifying. Justin Trudeau still won't let her speak to very important events that happened between the time that she was removed as Attorney General of Canada and when she resigned from Cabinet. That is still protected. Justin Trudeau is still protected with that attorney-client privilege and that cabinet confidence within that period of time. We believe that he should waive that so that all the information can come to light. Someone who is not afraid of the truth helps the truth come out. Someone who has nothing to hide doesn't try to stop people from telling the story. And if Justin Trudeau truly believes that he did nothing wrong, he should welcome everything from Ms. Wilson-Raybould testifying on that key period to a public inquiry and to further testimony at the Justice Committee. So I believe that, that Justin Trudeau has lost the moral authority to govern this country, and if he had any integrity, he would resign as Prime Minister to allow the government to continue to function without this cloud of scandal hanging over him. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to you and to take your questions. Merci beaucoup encore d'être ici. Thank you very much again for being here, and very much look forward to addressing any number of concerns.
We have a microphone.
So I'll
If
just
you could
quickly
raise your
introduce
hand.
myself. My name is Daniel Scow, Mr. Scheer's press secretary. Thank you all for being here. So we will now take questions, as Mr. Scheer said. Anyone who's interested in coming and want to make sure that you have an opportunity, please just come right here. I'll have the mic. Please state the name of your outlet and your name, and then ask your question.
Scheer, Prime Minister has demanded for his resignation, but he has denied to that. So what is the line of action for Conservative Party now? Because Mr. Jagmeet Singh, leader of NDP, he said he's looking for public inquiry. So both of you have different demands, separate demands. So where you stand now after he has denied for the resignation?
Well, Mr. Singh and I do agree on a few things, and we have worked together to call for public inquiry. We were calling for a public inquiry early on. Originally, the Justice Committee of the House of Commons was the platform that we were working towards. Once we received enough information where we could tell that there was something very improper that had happened, we did call for a public inquiry. Justin Trudeau has refused to do that as well. So our line of action now is to continue to try to get as much truth as possible out of the Justice Committee. We had Ms. Wilson-Raybould. Keep in mind, originally we proposed a witness list that would include Ms. Wilson-Raybould, the Clerk of the Privy Council, Gerald Butts, the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, the other individuals who were meeting with SNC Lavalin for dozens of times, and the Liberals voted that down. It's only when they are dragged kicking and screaming, when there's enough public pressure, do they make any movement on these things. So we're going to continue to put the pressure on, and as more information comes to light through the committee's work, we will, obviously make further demands for openness and transparency. I've also called on the RCMP to launch a criminal investigation into this. Other attorneys general, former attorneys general who served at federal and provincial levels have also made that call. There's a growing opinion within the legal community that at least a preliminary investigation by the RCMP is necessary, because we're talking about interference in a criminal proceeding that, in many people's view, cross the line into obstruction of justice, and the intimidation of an attorney general being that key component of obstruction of justice. So obviously we are urging the RCMP to take these concerns very seriously and to conduct a criminal investigation.
Hi, Steve Bandera from the Ukrainian language program Forum TV. My question has to do with SNC Lavalin, but as you know, there's a war raging in Ukraine. And from SNC Lavalin's own website, we see that in 2016 they awarded a contract in Russia, a sulfur dioxide mitigation. And in 2017 they were awarded another contract in a place called Dorogobuj in Russia. So this raises the whole question of sanctions. And my question is, if the Conservative Party comes to power, what can you say about a sanctions regime vis-a-vis Russia? And will the sanctions be expanded from individuals to companies? Other companies like Bombardier are still, despite the sanctions, doing business in Russia. What will change when the Conservatives, if and when the Conservatives come to power? Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for the question, and you're right to point out the way that the sanctions regime in Russia is currently structured. I should point out by saying that it was the Conservative Party that fought for the Magnitsky Act itself and the provisions that are contained in that. And as one of the members of Parliament who proudly wears as a badge of honor the fact that I am currently banned from Russia because of my support for Ukraine and because of my being outspoken against the Putin's regime. We will, of course, always push for a strong response to Russian aggression in Europe and not only back up Ukraine's territorial sovereignty with words, but with meaningful actions. So we are obviously always looking at the situation as to whether or not sanctions lists should be expanded, other individuals added into it, or the scope broadened beyond individuals and looking at a wider application of that. So that is something that we will constantly monitor and adjust as needed. And in addition, we've called for material assistance to Ukraine's army with real materials that are currently not being used in other conflicts around the world. So we will continue, Conservative government will continue to be that strong friend and ally for Ukraine.
Maybe John from Canada National TV, and my question is, the SNC Lavalin scandal has attracted attention in Chinese state media due to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's previous assertion that his government cannot interfere in the case of a senior public executive arrested in Canada and now fighting extradition to the United States. And China's foreign minister grabbed the chance to question the state of judicial independence in Canada. What's your point of view about this matter, and can you see any connection between these two issues?
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly believe that Justin Trudeau's actions has undermined Canada's ability to make the case that our judicial system is not subject to political interference. We now know that for 4 months, there was political interference being attempted. Thankfully, Ms. Wilson-Raybould stood up to that and did not allow that to happen. The problem comes along with the fact that she was removed from her post, and her replacement now seems all too eager to do what she wouldn't do. So I think Canadians are rightly concerned with what message does that send to Canadians who are being held, who are being imprisoned in China, when the Prime Minister on the one hand says, well, we don't intervene politically, but then if it's important to his election success, then he's all too eager to interfere. So we need to, that's another reason why Canadians should be outraged about this, because it sends a terrible message to Canadians ourselves that the justice system under Justin Trudeau has had this attack on it, but also the message around the world. So we need to take these concerns very seriously, and Conservatives certainly do.
Yeah, my question is, there are two atomic countries, India and Pakistan, going against each other, and what is your stance on it, and where do you stand?
Well, obviously, as a party and as a country, we are hopeful for a peaceful resolution to the various issues that are points of disagreement between India and Pakistan. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims of the recent attacks, and we do urge restraint on both sides. Obviously, there's some positive developments with the release of the pilot that had been captured. We certainly hope that is a positive sign of a de-escalation and a return to dialogue. So our stance on this is that we need, I think the world needs both India and Pakistan to approach all these issues in a very constructive and peaceful way, always through dialogue and through negotiations, never through violence. Terrorism knows no boundaries, and there are people in both countries that have suffered from these kinds of attacks. So we as the international community must always do what we can to promote channels for peace and dialogue.
My name is Darshan Bhatti. I'm from Toronto 360 TV. With continuation of the questions, we here, Pakistani and Indian, are just living like brothers. But the Conservative statement on 28th of February, it looks like it's a little bit one-sided statement. Even then, it was amended later. So what do you say about that?
Well, no, I believe it was a very straightforward statement that was addressing the situation. Of course, we realize that that there is work that needs to be done for to ensure that terrorist groups don't have access to everything from funds to safe places, and we know that that governments in many countries have a responsibility to engage on that, to do work on that. We also know that there are victims of terrorism on both sides, and we must always denounce those activities and recognize that that governments do have roles to play in rooting that out. So the statement was based on those two principles, that terrorism knows no political boundaries, that those who are intent on conducting evil do so indiscriminately, or whether it's indiscriminate or in a targeted way, it doesn't matter. If innocent lives are lost, it's always a tragedy. So that is our position, that we will always call out those terrorist organizations that are responsible for these, but also recognize that a country like Pakistan does have a positive role to play, and like as you pointed out, there's a desire. I truly do believe there's a desire for peace on both sides.
We have time for a few more questions here, folks, so please feel free to come up and ask your question.
Your Honor, I'm Anton Kikash, producer of the Croatian TV program Croatica TV on Omni. First of all, I would like to give you compliments on your introductory comments. You have addressed very effectively the key issue that Canadians need to know the truth of this key issue that is affecting all of us. My question to you is, I have heard and read that the former Attorney General, despite heavy damaging testimony that she has given against the Liberal Party, that she still intends to run in the next election as a Liberal. I'm very confused, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Thank you so much.
Well, obviously, it's up to Ms. Wilson-Raybould to decide what her future political prospects may be. I believe the point that she is trying to make is that Justin Trudeau is responsible for his actions, and that perhaps she's trying to save the Liberal Party from him. If every Liberal MP was as concerned about the interference with the justice system as they should be, they would remove Justin Trudeau as their leader and try to preserve their own party's integrity. And I think it speaks to something, and I believe Canadians are watching this. Liberal MPs have a choice to make. If they continue to defend Justin Trudeau and to act as if nothing improper happened, then Canadians will know that it was not just a Justin Trudeau problem, it was a Liberal Party of Canada problem. And every single cabinet minister who sits around that table, knowing what he has done and continuing to allow him to occupy that position, will be endorsing and approving of what he did, and Canadians will remember that as well. They have an opportunity in the next few weeks to show Canadians that it was one person or a team of people around Justin Trudeau, and if they don't, then we will make the conclusion that they are all implicit and they are all part of this scandal.
Scheer, I'm guests. I'm with Go Live TV, and we have a big negligence from the part of the Liberals in relation to the immigration. To the end of this month, they have to deport 5,900 people, irregardless what their situation is. People that have been over here for 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and we're talking about skilled labor, which is the part that we need. Canada needs a lot of skilled labor, and they are deporting people. And they have no compassion, they show no compassion at all for this problem. I believe my Conservative Party, I believe the Conservative Party will have some compassion And if it's possible, is there any interference that the Conservatives can do at the federal level?
Well, I appreciate this question, and this phenomenon, this issue was brought up to me just recently from members of the community, and I can tell you that this is something that we are looking at. Obviously, our rules around work permits and immigration need to be robust. We have to have integrity within our system, and rules do need to be followed. That being said, we do also need to understand that the work program itself and the way within which the immigration system deals with people does need to be overhauled as well. And there are many aspects of the previous regime that were changed that have had unintended consequences, that have left many people exposed and in very vulnerable situations. So we are looking at how best to balance those two goals. One, a rules-based system that is fair and applies to people equally, and second, a compassionate angle to it that recognizes that there are many families that are now facing a tremendous amount of anxiety and hardship who have, in many cases, a well-established presence here in Canada. So reforms that are aimed at those two goals with a view towards providing a pathway to permanency, where people who have made these contributions, who are clearly integrated and implicated in a society or in a neighborhood, have a meaningful opportunity for a permanent status in Canada. Those are our guiding navigational points as we put together our policy on this. Thank you.
I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to ask straight to you. In Ontario, we have over 500,000 undocumented people. If those people will be legalized and start paying taxes, Ontario will raise over $3 billion per year. So, what do you want to do to get this fixed? And another thing is, I have nothing against the refugees, but Justin Trudeau brought it in 35,000 refugees 3.5 years ago. They still occupied 46% of the shelters in Toronto. And if you have any plan for Trudeau's refugees, because they have a plan to bring it in, but they don't have a plan to integrate them in society.
Mm-hmm. We are aware of that. We do want to accomplish that goal of having a rules-based system that treats everyone equally, that people know that there are, that it is important to follow through the regime, but also that understands the compassionate side and offers a solution to that. On the refugee side, I think it's very important to remember that when Justin Trudeau made promises during the last election campaign, he had no idea of how he would actually achieve that. And I believe a great example of that is the refugee intake system, whereby in order to satisfy a short-term political goal, he launched a program without any resources or capacity or plan for integration, for accommodation. And so now we have the issue with many families who have been living in hotels and shelters without access to things like second language training services, job training, housing, and yet that just is allowed to continue. The second point is what has happened at the border, and the fact that there are now over almost 40,000 examples of people crossing into Canada illegally, where they are skipping the line and jumping the queue. And now those refugees who would face persecution or even death in a refugee camp or in a country where there's civil war now find themselves waiting longer as people cross into Canada from upstate New York. And the impact that's having on other types of immigration processing times. So when I go back to some of the other questions about those who have been here for a long period of time, who are working, who want to be integrated into the workforce, there's a great deal of frustration that they say, well, hey, if I drove down to upstate New York, I could just cross over illegally, and that's not fair. And so we have to have a system that's based on integrity, so that Canadians can have confidence in it as well. Canadians are very welcoming people, and we value immigration. We've all come from somewhere, and our families have come here at various points in time because Canada is a wonderful place, and we want to raise our family here, and we want to contribute. So Canadians will continue to have that open and positive attitude towards immigration in general if they can see that the system is based on a framework of rules that treats people fairly and that puts Canada's needs first and that ensures that there are adequate programs and resources for it. So the impact that the illegal border crossings have had on city shelters, Ottawa, obviously Toronto and Montreal, it's having an impact in it, and it's making it harder for the government to preserve those attitudes towards immigration. But the Conservative Party will continue to promote that positive viewpoint on immigration, coupled with a system that actually works.
Economic-wise, we are very bad last 2 months, and the budget is coming. So what is your point of bringing the carbon tax also? And what is the message for the NDP voters to come and, I think there are so many MPs are resigned. Why the Conservative message for them to come and support with the Conservative and bring the majority government with the Conservative?
The growth has been stagnant and in fact in some months has actually shrank. Our GDP has shrank. So we are very concerned about that. We're concerned about that because we were warning this government early on in this mandate that while the global economy was propping up Canada's domestic economy, that was the time to balance the budget. It was the time to start paying down debt. It was the time to make sure that we were making strategic moves within our own economy. What the Liberals did instead was they racked up billions of dollars of new deficit, which means that our country has less capacity to react to a downturn. They also started to chase away jobs and investment. We saw that with the energy sector. $80 billion of direct investment, foreign direct investment in our energy sector has left the country. We all remember the Liberal attack on small businesses when they called small business and entrepreneurs tax cheats. And that had a devastating impact on the economy, a chill throughout the small business community. Many small companies decided not to invest, not to expand because they didn't want to, they were fearful of what the implications were with these new tax changes. And of course the carbon tax. Carbon tax making Canada an even less competitive place to invest and create jobs and opportunities. The carbon tax will also increase the cost of everything from home heating to electricity to any goods or service that requires transportation. So all these things coming together with any indication of a global downturn is very, very concerning. So as we look forward to the budget in a couple of weeks, what Conservatives would like to see is responsible spending so that we get closer to balanced budgets, some tax relief for hardworking individuals and families, but I'm afraid what we'll see is more of the same. Spending for the sake of spending, irresponsible growth in spending that doesn't actually deliver for the priorities of Canadians, all meaning that a Liberal government would continue to raise taxes in order to pay for their out-of-control spending. So that's what we're watching for in the next couple of weeks.
One more question, Mr. Scheer.
My name is Yuri Klufas. I represent Kontakt, Ukrainian television broadcast on Omni. I have sort of a two-part question. One, what do you think, or how are you going to be managing the conceivable fallout of this situation here with SNC Lavalin? On one hand, we have the West saying there goes Quebec, business as usual. On the other hand, we know that not every Quebecer is corrupt. So how will you be possibly handling that? The other issue is, I don't know if you realize we're all here, ethnic media. Canada on a federal level has many programs available for television and film production. Unfortunately, the formulas for all of those access to money is not available to any one of us here just by the fact of the way the projects are formulated. To what extent are you going to be able to create a platform that allows for ethnic media to participate in public funding for broadcasting and production?
Well, I appreciate the question. The first part I'll address by saying that in Western Canada, we've had court decisions that have led to job losses. We've had pipeline projects that were halted because courts ruled that the law was not followed, that the laws around, for example, First Nations consultation was not followed properly. That has had a devastating impact on many workers, and many out-of-work people in Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia have called on the government to address that. But never interfering in a court decision. Never was there a suggestion that the solution to that would be to ignore a court decision or to try to somehow put pressure on an agent of the court. It's all been done on addressing the policy issues that would facilitate new projects to be built. But on the Quebec aspect of it to it, and my colleague from Montreal can back me up on this, Quebecers don't want corrupt companies getting special deals from the government. There's a massive inquiry in Quebec called the Charbonneau inquiry that was specifically designed to root out corruption and bribery charges within the construction industry within Quebec. Nobody in Quebec believes that they should be used as an excuse for Liberals intervening in a court decision. And that is something that I believe Justin Trudeau is playing with fire, and that voters in Quebec will hold him accountable for, because he is somehow trying to say that the rules don't apply when the rules don't apply, period. And I think Quebecers will remember that, to say you cannot use Quebecers as an excuse for Liberal corruption. We saw that in the past with the sponsorship scandal, where Liberals thought that the people of Quebec would be okay with what they were doing because because they had grand motivations. But Quebecers said no, you can't use us as an excuse for corruption. And I know I feel the same way. I'm from Saskatchewan. There have been Saskatchewan companies, and if any of them were charged with corruption or bribery, I would want them to be held accountable, because we need to live in a country where there is one rule of law for all of us. And I believe that you're going to see that in the weeks to come. That I don't believe there's as much division between Quebecers and the rest of Canada on this than some of the media, certainly the Liberals, would like to believe. I don't know if you wanted to...
Look, I will speak as a Quebecer and as a Montrealer, and I can tell you SNC Lavalin just happens to be one Quebec engineering firm. Quebec has many engineering firms and many proud firms that are a model around the world. And I agree with our leader that every single one who pays taxes in Quebec wants to encourage firms that respect the law. So I think time and time again, Quebecers have shown no patience, not at the provincial level. We had a public inquiry on this. Quebecers have been adamant, and I think they will be very upset at the attempt of this Prime Minister to try to blame try to create a division in this country, and playing with national unity at the expense of your own political benefit is unbecoming of any Prime Minister.
Thanks so much, everyone. We'll just get our GTA candidates back up to the
Maybe you want to address this question regarding funding for the...
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yes, Senator Sack was reminding me. The second part of the question was on funding for ethnic media. This is another issue that I've become very well aware of in my time as leader of the opposition. I was not fully appreciative of the role that ethnic media plays within Canada up until I had this position. And being able to travel the country and go on ethnic language radio stations, speak to community publications in any number of different languages, and of course being interviewed on television for certain types of broadcasts has really taught me to appreciate the valuable role that ethnic media provides Canadians. So I do believe that every media outlet in Canada should be treated equally, and that the programs that are available should be broadened so that every outlet, so that every broadcasting entity, every newspaper, every radio station is treated equally and has the same access point, the same level of access, so that we shouldn't just be carving them out completely. And I know I've heard from everything from when the government runs advertisements promoting programs or services, often that they leave out the ethnic papers, which in my view, in many ways, would probably benefit the most from those advertisements in a different language to make sure that it's reaching a broader audience. If the government has an important message to tell people, if there's a change to a policy or if there's a new service that are being provided, we need to make sure that every Canadian is made aware of that. So that is my commitment to you as well, to make sure that those programs are treating ethnic media outlets on an equal level.
Mr. Scheer, the problem is that the big chunk goes to the big gems. There are hundreds of millions of dollars every year, but it goes to the big gems, big media groups. Nothing for the smaller groups, nothing for that group. That's the problem.
I understand.
And it's so complicated, so complex. When you apply for that, you don't qualify. You cannot qualify.
So we're very aware of the problem, and we have had a few proposals for how that can be addressed through some simple policy changes. So we're looking at a number of those different options to make sure that that it's responsive. So we want to rely on some of your input. So we'll be consulting with you to find out more about how that can be structured. But I think it's just ensuring that there's a level of apportionment that makes sense, so that you know, you can look at the number of eyes and ears that are engaged with broadcasts and publications in different languages, and a simple formula to ensure that there is either a set aside or that there's a target for ensuring that a certain percentage of the ad buy is flowing to those types of outlets. I believe that it could be a straightforward policy solution.
My name is Yashan Chaudhary, so my riding is Cargo Center.
My name is Władysław Lizon, and my riding is Mississauga East Cooksville.
Hi, I'm Rona Singh. My riding is Brampton East.
Hi everyone, I'm Helen Claire Tingling, and my riding is University Rosedale.
Good afternoon, everybody. Bon après-midi. My name is Nadira Nazir. I'm the candidate for Beaches East York.
Hanny Dolphidas, Mississauga Edinburghs.
Daniel Lee from Willowdale.
Yada Malik, Mississauga Streetsville.
Hello everybody, my name is Adam Pham from Parkdale High Park.
Iftikhar Chaudhary, Humber River, Black Creek.
Frank Sapadina for York.
Terrell Pitts, Tobago Center, and glad to see so many old friends out here today.